You're listening to the field report for January 15th, 2016. I took on this mission with the idea that I better understand world topics. So hopefully, as I wait for a callback from some people that could better help assess what's happening in geopolitics, healthcare, the market, things like that. We've touched on a wide variety of topics, but topics I'm not really comfortable with. I can honestly tell you, only because I don't know much about the topics, so we're going to keep it pretty generic and basic. If I do decide to go into more of a report, I use the Third Watch update to maybe go dig a little deeper. So if you're wondering what the Third Watch update is, it's more of an in-depth report, or maybe explains more. These field reports are pretty general, though. Always have been and always will be, as far as I'm concerned. But, I want to have time to talk to people, bring them to the table, or even bring a guest host in to do a general report. I think it's fair. I think trying to go down the direction of being more responsible journalism, I think that's a fair argument to be made right now, because there is a lot to filter through, and there's a lot of information thrown at us, and I don't want to be going over too far too much into religious views to not really kind of generalize, but this is just kind of a summary, an overview. That's really what a report is. So with that said, I want to get back to the reports that we have been watching. Actually, my post at the Third Watch update, we really took the weekend to watch what's going to happen at the UN. I'm really not sure. I'm going to learn a lot from your responses, listening to the comments in the feed. I really do get a better understanding. There's a lot of insight in a lot of what other people say. So it's easy to make a better report, just kind of feeling the pulse of what other people might have to say about it, and I preview a lot of information, so for obvious reasons it helps me better understand how to do an overall report. But we are watching this and have been all weekend. Of course, the inauguration being one of the bigger stories, of course, next week, and also following that, also I'm sorry, just had a blip. Stop for a moment. The pro-life rally, January 27th, that Friday, and it's a lot. That's a lot on the table. And there's a couple other protests in March. I think there's I have no idea what they call it. I think there's an anti-pro-life protest rally, I believe, that weekend too. So I do kind of want to take a humorous step over from Co-Pink. I haven't really seen them out there, but they just finally came out with their vagina suits, and they're back. And this is always really what political theater really is. It's entertaining to a certain extent. And so Washington, D.C. is a hubble for a lot of stuff. And I've kind of took that approach to Washington, D.C. I was trekking the snow, a couple years ago, and it was 10 below. So I remember that day, though. And it was really, really cold. And going to watch and maybe do interviews and just show up at rallies. And I've went to a couple rallies down there. And going to the pro-life rally, it was really, really cold. And I have to tell you, unless you're walking, you will pretty much, you just need to keep walking. It's the only way I could have survived a day in Washington, D.C. on 10 below. So, and there are always, when I ever made a trip down to Washington, D.C., I don't know what I was thinking, but always bring an extra food with you and travel light. Don't be going down there and expecting things to, having walking shoes, big time. But this time going down to Washington, D.C., I have a better plan. If I do go down there, I'm making a really short day. I don't want to be down there all day marching. I've done that a couple of times and followed the crowd and followed the rallies, but I would probably go to maybe one or two events and then call it an early day. But walking shoes is really big, and knowing the transit system and taking the subway or going out side of DC would be probably my next choice. I know going to Washington, D.C., though, having gone a couple times, I really like going to the Smithsonian Museum and looking at the planes. That's really what I do. I really like photography, and there was just amazing artifacts from World War II, and that is really where I love to fixate my hobby on antiques, especially antique hobbies like those who collect antique models of trains, planes, and automobiles. I know not typical for most women, but definitely in my category for sure. So I like those hobbies, and I love antiques, and I really take interest in that. And I believe this spring we're going to definitely go back to the airport, and we're going to really get a better look and feel of the aviation museum. That's something I definitely want to do more. I've been really kind of craving to get out there. But after, recovering and the next part of the segment, we're going to go into cross-training. I mean, really, we want to be fit body, mind, and spirit. I like doing these reports from time to time. Sometimes we'll take a deeper look at some reports, and then I just let up for a couple days, and I just take a break. And so thank God I don't have a rotation or report, and I'm just trying my best to be more responsible with what I do know, and carefully report these stories. I don't want to be going unhinged, but some things I do kind of like. Apocalyptic events do have a way of throwing me off. I will admit, and sometimes if I'm not paying attention closer to space weather reports, it would throw anyone off. So I do try to pay attention to these space weather events, comets. I really appreciate actually Thor News. I really like his commentary. He's funny, and it helps us better learn more about space weather, space science, and astronomy. And I don't do math, so for obvious reasons, I try to do better at that stuff, though. It's not as if I can't add. That's not my favorite topic. Okay, but astronomy is right up my road. I really like aviation. I really like learning about the antiques and history. If there's anything I want you all to come away with at the field report, is doing more, learning more about, the history of automobiles, planes, and things like that. I think that's very fascinating. But as we go into cross-training here in the next segment, I just want to remind all of you, if you really want to be a part of what we're trying to do, please sponsor and support us. Because when you sponsor us, it gives us mobility, gives us access to things that maybe we can't do. We are publicly supported. I don't want to be the first to say that, yeah, we do need sponsors, but we need public support. We need to see subscribers and keep this thing going. Or we'll be like any other dead fish in the sea. We'll just wash up, and we'll be washed up, and you don't want to see that happen. Really, you don't. I look bad without makeup sometimes too, and I need my rest, and it's nice to pay the bills. And so we do T-shirts. We do a lot of military events. I go to parades. I like to do things outside of doing these reports. I have been down for a while because of health and weather issues, but coming back to do the field report, I like being the MC of a parade, preferably, than doing any report. I like meeting the people out in the field and talking to them about health matters and concerns. I like that kind of stuff. To me, that's not just responsible reporting, but raw reporting. So with that said, help us, we'll help you. The Field Report is a part of the Amateur Radio Network. You can also hear us at 103.3 FM and 1370 AM, Charlotte, North Carolina. Thank you for tuning in to Cross Training. We are doing our webinar here for following the field report, and some of the stuff I've been studying up on is fitness and exercise, and what happens when you're not exercising. What are you doing with your time and managing your time and leveraging your time? Well, managing it means just having a regimen. And I have to say, anyone who desires a structure regimen, it's because you're used to having not a regimen. And anyone that's not on a routine will desire to have more discipline and routine. And there could be a number of contributing factors. Trying to get things back in place takes time. Staying out of each other's way, number 2, and focusing on your own personal health goals, maybe financial goals, etc. Because I don't leave anything off the table. I call it recovery tree because there's so many branches. And if you know anything about my recovery tree, one of the things about cross training, I'm trying to implement more with following the field report is we do a small short report, go right into cross training. That way we don't have to get too far into other topics, and that leaves it for something else. We can occupy a lot of space and time with what we do in fitness and exercise, though. And one of the things is we want to get out more. We don't want to be tied down to the computer. And there's a time to do that, but there's a time to exercise and get outside and be out among the living. And if you've been tied down to work at home, sometimes it's like, wow, I can't believe it's 2 days. And I did 2 days of full research, and I'm getting outside for a change. So we would need to stop doing the research end of it and just putting this fitness plan to action. And I can't think of a better way to do it slowly and get into a walking routine. But I actually know that I might not actually physically get out a lot. So I might need to implement, a good, jumping jacks. For all intensive purposes, I want us to be better fit body, mind, and spirit. Thank you for tuning in to the Field Report. You can also hear us at 103.3 FM and 1370 AM, Charlotte, North Carolina. The Field Report is a part of the Amateur Radio Network.